be here at the Winter Nationals. Consider that in our 4 professional categories, Pro Stock, Pro Modified, Alcohol Funny Car, and Top Fuel Eliminator, 3 of our eventual titleists last season were finalists in this event, and only Canadian sensation Todd Payton was able to overcome a goose egg here at the Winter Nationals. We've got a great lineup for you this year, some wild new race cars and some new racetracks. So let's start things off with a little preview of what's coming in 1994 with a man who knows the IHRA inside and out. Here's Ted Jones.
Well, Bob, the big news this year is right down here in the Pro Modified pits. The return of the nostalgia cars to Pro Modified. Now, when the IHRA introduced Pro Modified, about half of the field were the nostalgia cars, or the early model cars. They had a slight weight break because they push a lot of air. As a matter of fact, they were nicknamed shoeboxes. Then, when the weight break went away in the IHRA rules, the nostalgia cars started to disappear. Now, this year, the IHRA has given the nostalgia cars a full 100-pound weight break. And who has it brought out to the field? Well, the return of the living legend, Ronnie Sachs of Sachs and Martin fame, who's being inducted, incidentally, this year into the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. But the really big news has to be the change back of 3-time IHRA Pro Modified World Champion, Scotty Cannon. Scotty won his first World Championship in a nostalgia body, a 1940 Willys. Then he switched up to Illumina, then the ultra-sleek wind tunnel design Corvette. But with the 100-pound weight break, Scotty has gone back to the nostalgia ranks in this beautiful ONSAT-sponsored 1941 Willys. There's other exciting news all over the pit area, and to keep up with it, we'll have to turn to ESPN's Walking Talking Encyclopedia of Drag Racing, Brett Kepner.
Well, there's no question that Pro Modified Eliminator will lead the way in controversy again in 1994 at the IHRA 3M Scotch Guard Automotive Protectors Tour. But I'll tell you something, there may be some new blood in Pro Mod, but Pro Stock Eliminator is just as full of brand new race cars here at the 1994 Winter Nationals. I got to tell you, I've never seen so many new Pro Stockers in one event, whether it was at the beginning of the season or not. We've got a representative from every single manufacturer trying to get a spot in this 16-car field. Dodge, Chrysler, Pontiac, Mercury, Ford, Chevy, they're all here trying to get into this field. And one thing's for sure, the winter testing season has shown us that these cars are going to be going a lot quicker than they did last year, and that's what they're here to prove at the Winter Nationals. Back to you, gentlemen.
All right, Brett, thank you. We'll pick up the action with Night of Fire final round qualifying under the lights here at Darlington. And what an evening of record-shattering it was. Here is Doug Herbert, the 1992 IHRA World Champion in Top Fuel, making his bid for top qualifier.
Herbert on an excellent run, although the tires broke loose at mid-track on the Darlington sand, managed to turn in the #1 qualifying position.
And here's this 1941 Willys for 3-time Pro Modified champ Scotty Cannon. Watch the near lane.
Cannon was not in the field, but with this run, he qualified. He was not in until that point.
Now here is Todd Payton, the young early 20s commercial airline pilot from Canada, top qualifier in Alcohol Funny Car.
Everybody expected Payton to lay down a good one, and that he did.
Now notice the name on the driver door in Pro Stock. It's Roy Hill's driving school. Mike Bell, his crew chief, was supposed to drive this car, but that is Roy himself behind the wheel. Coming in not qualified, and here's why. Watch the near lane. With the help of home videographer Chicago John Hoffman, we capture Roy sliding across the lane, up and over the guardrail, onto the grass, back onto the racetrack. An absolutely astonishing crash, but Roy was okay. Now, have you ever wondered what it must be like to be inside a race car, tumbling and crashing like that? Our Advanced Auto Parts onboard camera will show you just what it's like.
Notice as Roy starts getting out of shape, and there he is right there, still concentrating, trying to stay out of the guardrail and steer the car. He's absolutely sideways. Now he's going backwards down the track.
Notice the look on his face. It's like he's sitting at a poker table until he closes his eyes and goes up and over.
Right now you can see the grass coming, spraying into the field of our onboard camera. Now he's back onto the drag strip, and he comes to a stop.
An incredible example of how well these cars are built. Now, to finish the story, Roy Hill actually qualified his backup car, but then was bumped from the field. And on Sunday, Brett Kepner caught up with him to ask him about the crash.
My right foot is cracked, a little bone in it into my toe. My ribs are bruised, but that the great part. You know,
that's getting out of it easy.
we can get a new race car, and thank God it didn't get into no people, and I can't say enough for everybody getting to me, and it's one of those things in racing, and I'm able to come back.
Did you learn anything? I don't mean this to sound obnoxious, but from the Roy Hill Drag Racing School standpoint, did you learn anything in your head that maybe you can pass on to students?
I really did. In the school, I'm very tough on people. When you have a problem, get out of it right then. I drove it a little deep. That's my fault. The next thing is when the car turned around, we need to learn from everything that happens. In the Winston Cup deal, whenever the cars at Talladega, Daytona fly, we're going to put flaps in my new Jerry Haas Thunderbird.
No kidding.
And hopefully, if that should ever happen again, it'll stay on the ground.
That's an amazing revelation. I mean, that means that something good really did come out of that.
It really did. We hope to have this car at Bristol, and maybe you can take a real close look at it.
We will.
All right, thank you, Brett. An amazing story. Now, let's get back to qualifying action during the Night of Fire. In the right lane, Steve Williford, once the fastest car in Pro Stock, gets all kinds of out of shape, and over he went.
Well, he thought if Roy can do it, I can too. You ain't seen nothing yet, gang, but fortunately, he managed to keep it between the guardrails and on all fours.
And I'm with Brett. We're going to be looking for those aerodynamic flaps in Roy Hill's next car. Now, here is the defending Pro Stock World Champion, Doug Kirk, who came into this race with the world ET record, reset it during the Night of Fire qualifying, but then watched as Billy Huff, the former champion, ran away from him in qualifying. Finally, it was time for the jet cars. Dick Rosberg and Bob Van Sciver driving cars that Van Sciver hopes to develop a series for. Drag racing jets, there's nothing like it. Lights and into the darkness. Fireworks lighting the night at Darlington. This ESPN Speed World presentation is brought to you by Purolator. Legends live on Purolator. And by Peerless Faucet. Get more out of your faucet than just water. We'll be back to Darlington, South Carolina to begin eliminations in Pro Modified. Stay with us.
5Gs.
Welcome back to Darlington, South Carolina, and the opening round of the Scotchgard Automotive Protectors 3M National Drag Racing Series. Here's one of our new innovations this year, the Boom Cam. It should give us a great perspective of burnouts and start line launches. Right now, let's get things underway with the year's first edition of Drag Review. Here's Brett Kepner.
Well, it's 1994, and what would the new season be without a little bit of controversy in the Pro Mod pit area? Through the winter, the International HARTMAN Association made several major rules revisions that have changed the face of Pro Modified. The biggest difference comes in what the cars weigh, because now there is an advantage given to some of the earlier model body styles, or nostalgia cars as we call them, to be a little bit more competitive and to generate some new vehicles in the category. You might remember last year we saw more Corvette ZR1s in this category than anything else. Let's face it, they were a very, very slippery combination as far as aerodynamics are concerned. But now, if you run a nitrous oxide injected nostalgia car, you can weigh 2,400 pounds with driver. If you run a supercharged nostalgia car, which by the way is defined as 1969 and earlier, you have to weigh 2,550. If you run a late model nitrous car, it's 2,500. If you run a blown late model car, it's 2,650. What does that mean? Well, obviously, the drivers who choose a supercharged 1970 or later body style are going to weigh a lot more than everybody else. So they would be the heavily penalized combination in this particular class. Well, that doesn't explain why Bill Coolman in the Summit Racing Equipment Corvette ran 6.64 seconds in qualifying, and indeed, that led the field up until the very last run of the very last qualifying session when Scotty Cannon's new nostalgia body blown Willys ran 6.59 seconds. Now, that particular run by Coolman raised a lot of eyebrows. This car theoretically should not be that quick, but during the winter season, Coolman, using a high helix supercharger, which is not legal in IHRA Pro Mod, and taking 150 pounds of weight out of the car, ran 6.34 seconds at 219 miles per hour in match races in Texas. Now, that kind of performance scared a lot of people. This performance here didn't do anything to help Coolman's image with his peers. For one thing's for sure, the controversy has not died down.
All right, thank you, Brett. Here's a look at our race time conditions, and they're not great. 60 degrees of temperature, but 40% humidity and 29.95 barometer. That's not perfect, but Darlington always produces surprises, and we expect some more here today. Now let's get things underway with the class Brett was just talking about. Quarterfinals of Pro Mod. There is Jim Halsey from Street, Maryland in his 93 Corvette. And there is Chris Hunt from Killen, Alabama in a 92 Chevy Lumina.
The Hunt family owns a car restoration company down in Killen, Alabama. I'm absolutely surprised that he's not running one of these new nostalgia cars, Bob.
Chris Hunt has spent every birthday since he was 16 years old at a drag strip. There you see the nitrous bottles being opened up in Jim Halsey's Chevy.
We have exactly 4 supercharged cars and 4 nitrous cars right here in this round of competition.
And 3 of our quarterfinalists are using nostalgia bodywork. There's a look at our new start line boom cam. Bit of a dramatic effect right there.
Both cars taking their time staging up. A new starter this year, I should say new. The head starter this year is Clyde Spook Peak.
Cars are staged, they're away. Carrying the front wheels in the right lane is Halsey. Looks like Hunt has the advantage at half track and holds it to the finish.
Chris Hunt with a 672 was just a little late off the line. Actually, Halsey came off the line first. Didn't have enough ET.
Our next pair, there is Carl Moyer from Ankeny, Iowa. His opponent, Bill Kuhlman, the man that Brett Kepner was talking about with the heaviest car in the Pro Mod category. But he has been posting some incredible numbers once again to the blue bottle. A bottled supercharger, the racers call it.
Actually, a better definition would be oxygen in a bottle. It adds oxygen to the combustion chamber, and obviously you can burn more gasoline if you can mix it with oxygen, so you put it in there under high pressure.
Kuhlman, the last inch in, away they go. Once again, looks like more grip in the right lane as Kuhlman takes the lead at half track. Can he hold it?
Kuhlman pulls out the win with a whole shot of 4:43 to a 4:88 reaction time. Kuhlman actually ran slower, a 6:72 to Moyer's losing 6:69.
Now here's one of our nostalgia cars, Chuck Peterson from Dakota Dunes, South Carolina in a 69 Chevelle. His opponent over on the other side, the first champion this class ever had back in 1990, Tim McCamus from Hawk Point, Maryland in a 93 Corvette CR1.
You set it up right, Bob. This is the supercharger versus the nitrous injected. Both of these guys with plenty of experience in this particular class. So this may tell us something, how these new weight breaks are going to affect the class.
Distinctive engine note from the supercharged cars. They launch. Looks like McCamus with the advantage as they come off the concrete.
Remember, the blower pulls hard on top end. Peterson barely noses him out. A 666 to a losing 677. McCamus, incidentally, had a great hole shot, almost a tenth of a second.
Now our final pair. There is the OnSat 41 Blown Willies of Scotty Cannon running in front of the home fans. He's from Lyman, South Carolina. His opponent from Dakota Dunes, South Carolina, Chuck Peterson's son, Chad Peterson, also driving a 69 Chevelle.
Now you can hear the nitrous system being purged. The idea is to let the hotter gases out of the line so you have cold nitrous oxide right out of the bottle ready to hit that intake.
Peterson family is trying to hedge the market here on power supplies. Chad Peterson uses a 706 cubic inch Pontiac motor with nitrous. His dad has the supercharged combination. This one is all Scotty Cannon.
Indeed it is. Cannon was off the line first. A 666. Scotty is on a roll indeed. Peterson slowed to a 684.
So here's a look at our opponents in the semifinals. It'll be Chris Hunt taking on Bill Kuhlman and Scotty Cannon going up against Chuck Peterson. We'll take a quick timeout, bring up the pro stocks when we return to Darlington International Dragway.
We needed some...
Welcome back to Darlington and the All-Pro Auto Parts Snap-on Tools Winter Nationals. We're happy to introduce a new feature this year. We're going to teach you to drive a pro stock drag racer. Here's the first edition of the Driver School.
Hi, I'm Roy Hill. I'm going to be bringing you, the viewer, tips on driving a race car this year. This is Mike Bell, my chief instructor. He's preparing to go in the car with his right foot, roll down under the steering wheel, pick up the jock strap, hook the right side seat belt, left side seat belt, right, left shoulder harness, right shoulder harness. We do this time after time, the same thing like a computer. He picks up the racing electronic headset, so we have communications to the driver. The helmet goes on. Safety is number one here in the school. The neck brace goes on. At this time, he'll pick up the left glove. It goes on. In case of a fire, we always have safety in mind. The right glove, the window net goes up. Time after time, we do this. We make a driver like a computer. If he's never thinking, he can just react, and he stores up energy to cut a light with. Now we're ready to go.
All right, thanks, Professor. Might have to bring in Ricky Smith or somebody to translate Roy Hill's Carolina diction. But we're going to have some fun at the driver's school this year. Let's go on now to the quarterfinals of Pro Stock. And here is the reigning champion, Doug Kirk from Lenoir, West Virginia. He'll be racing his new Pontiac against Robert Patrick from Fredericksburg, Virginia.
You can bet Patrick's plenty worried. Yesterday, Doug Kirk running set that new world record, qualified #1 with a 685 in a Pro Stocker without nitrous.
Talk about your mountain motors. 802 cubic inches of Pontiac power for Kirk. 810 in the Ford Mustang of Patrick. And Patrick has the lead.
Patrick put a hole shot. Kirk needs some no-dos. A 614 on the starting line to Patrick's 444, and it was all over right there.
We move on to our next pair. Floyd Cheek from Chattanooga, Tennessee in a 92 Ford Probe against Mark Thomas from Norwood, Ohio in a 93 Cutlass.
You know, Thomas was a newcomer last year, and a little bit of confusion. This is not the Mark Thomas of alcohol fame. However, he did very well last year. Here he is in the quarterfinals this year.
He had a couple of runner-up finishes in the finals last year, and right now he knocks off Cheek.
Mark Thomas with a good starting line reaction. Again, it was right on the starting line, a 499 to a 503 for Cheek.
Now our next matchup, Billy Huff, the former Pro Stock champion from Brooks, Kentucky in a 94 Olds Cutlass. His opponent, Greg Hankinson from Granville, Ohio in a 92 Pontiac Trans Am.
Now these are number 3 and 6 qualifiers. Huff qualified a 687, Hankinson a 691. Practically heads up, but that's not how they finished. An easy win for Huff with a 689, matched that qualifying time, a nice 473 react.
In our final matchup, Charlie Garrett set down 5-time champion Ricky Smith, so it'll be Garrett against Patrick, Huff against Thomas in the semifinals of Pro Stock. When we come back, we'll switch from racing gas to alcohol fuel. Back at Darlington International Dragway, Bob Varsha, Brett Kepner, Ted Jones, glad to have you with us for the opening round of the International Hot Rod Association season. Right now, here is a track fact about diapers.
A few seasons ago, our Track Fact series presented the brand new Top Fuel Racing diaper of Doug Foxworth's Havoc Top Fuel Dragster. Now, what the diaper program did was actually present a ballistic fabric around the bottom of the engine to contain any oil or parts that might come out during an explosion. Well, guess what? This brand new diaper is now a mandatory item on IHRA Top Fuel, Alcohol Funny Car, and Pro Mod machines. And already at this event, it's presented a tremendous benefit. This particular model on Bobby Balcom's Chicago Pneumatic Funny Car has already proven itself even with this particular machine. In fact, during qualifying alone, the International Hot Rod Association estimated an hour less downtime because of oil downs on the racetrack. But keep in mind that the diaper doesn't just protect the racetrack from flying pieces of oil, it protects the driver in the car from that same oil that might get under the tires and make a bad situation even worse.
All right, thank you, Brett. I wonder how many times folks wake up in the motel, roll over to the spouse and say, honey, it's your turn to change the race car. Seriously, it is a great advance in technology and safety here in drag racing as we move on to alcohol funny cars. There's the former world champ, Mark Thomas from Louisville, Ohio. His opponent, Melinda Green out of Norfolk, Virginia.
Here's the part that had everybody wondering. Melinda who? She qualified #1. Are you ready for this? With a 606.
And she gets left at the starting line. No, she fouled. Melinda Green has red-lighted Mark Thomas in a walkover.
Mark Thomas with a 614, but I wonder if Melinda Green could have laid down another one of those 6-0s. What a waste.
He's obviously in mid-season form already. Down comes the one-piece bodywork. That's why these funny cars are also called floppers. And this is the fastest flopper of all. Todd Payton from Paris, Ontario, Canada, the defending IHRA Alcohol Funny Car champion.
Payton qualified #3 with a 610, which is a little bit off the pace, but remember, Payton is very consistent with that.
Now here's his opponent from Vernon, Alabama, car builder Jimmy Rector.
Rector are relatively new on the IHRA trail, and it looks like Peyton's having a little bit of problem with the reverser unit. The PTS crew and Peyton's crew pushing him back there.
And it looks like Todd Payton will not answer the bell. No, he will not. The far lane will be empty. What a break for Jimmy Rector.
Well, apparently Peyton did something on the burnout, broke the car and lost fire, and they pushed him back. So a single run for Jimmy Rector. Let's see what he's got. A 6:22, not bad, Jimmy.
Move on to our next pair. Notice the little aerodynamic tweaks on the bodywork. This is Ricky Bowie from Greenwood, South Carolina.
Bowie driving the Star Rider number 3, the third in the Star Rider series, named after the legendary Alan Starr, top fuel racer from IHRA fame in yesteryear.
Now in the near lane is his opponent, Larry Dobbs, using one of the smallest engines in the class, 526 cubic inches, supercharged, of course. And at the launch, Bowie does not move. It's a walkover for Dobbs.
Boy, the braking gremlin strikes again. Dobbs with a 6:17. He lays down notice.
Well, Dobbs is looking tough going into the semifinals. Now here is Bunny Burkett from Sterling, Virginia, in her 93 Dodge Daytona. Her opponent right there, Tim Slagle, with a beautifully turned out 94 Oldsmobile. He's out of Fairfax, Virginia.
Look at the gorgeous paint job in this thing. It better be sponsored by DuPont Automotive Finishes. You better have the best looking paint job in the entire pit area.
DuPont has become quite a force in automotive sponsorship. We see them in Winston Cup and elsewhere, and problems for Slagle, who shuts it off at the start.
This entire round of Alcohol Funny Car, everybody stick fit. Meanwhile, Bunny will take it with a 6:17.
So our semifinal matchups will be Jimmy Rector against Larry Dobbs, and Mark Thomas, the former world champ, will take on Ms. Burkett. We'll step away for just a moment, and when we return, the horsepower kings of motorsports. 5,000 horsepower per example in Top Fuel. Welcome back to Darlington and the All-Pro Auto Parts Snap-on Tools Winter Nationals. Down in the pits, Brett Kepner has Top Fuel news.
Well, the players may look the same, but it's the beginning of the year for a brand new drag racing season, and you know what that means. Everything you know is wrong. Frank Fafer's St. Louis, Missouri Top Fuel dragster ended up winning the IHRA Top Fuel World Championship last year with Richard Langston at the helm in one of the closest points battles any type of drag racing has ever seen. But now it's 1994, so that means things have changed. How drastically? Well, you may not recognize the name of the driver of this machine this year, but Jim Bailey, the Alcohol Funny Car veteran from IHRA competition over the last decade, is now the new wheelman of the Frank Fafer brand new Top Fuel dragster. The only thing really constant about this act anymore, other than the owner, is the fact that Ronnie Swearingen, the journeyman crew chief who tuned this thing to the World Championship, is back again in 1994. We asked car owner Frank Fafer why the driver switch.
It's hard for an individual without a sponsor to run a Top Fuel car, and I had to come up with somebody to buy half of everything I got. Offered a deal to Richard Langston, and he didn't really want to spend the money, I guess. So Jim Bailey and I just got together, and he's my partner now. And
so it's more than just a driver-owner operation.
Absolutely. We're partners all the way, 50-50 now.
I'm very committed to, Frank Fafer in this deal, and I don't think there's any place to go from here. We just want to do as best we can, and I'd like to repeat in the World Championship for this team more than anything.
Well, Jim Bailey certainly has large shoes to fill as he steps up from Alcohol Funny Car into a championship-winning operation in Top Fuel. We'll pick up quarterfinal action now. There is Doug Foxworth from Lytle, Texas, vehicle engineer. His opponent, the bowling alley proprietor from Waterford, Michigan, Pontiac Jack Ostrander.
Well, the Havoc car driven by Doug Foxworth, if you'll recall, was one of the 4 competitors locked in that points war that went right down to the final race last year.
Won by Richard Langston. Foxworth was in it to the very end. Foxworth, the defending race winner here at Darlington, where he set down Langston. Jack Ostrander, meanwhile, picked up his first victory in 6 years last year when he won the Empire Nationals at Leicester, New York. Good launch for Ostrander, but he smokes the hides right off the start line. Same for Foxworth, but he stays in it.
Foxworth picks up the win, a 5:45, not a real good pace. Ostrander was on a good run, Bob. He had a 4:14. Let's watch it again now as he comes off the line. A big jump over Foxworth, comes off the end of the pads, instant smoke.
Well, I'd have to guess, after 1993's nightmare, that was a big, big win in your head.
Oh, yeah, especially after yesterday's qualifying sessions. We did horrible yesterday. We never got down the racetrack.
Crazy stuff, like flat tires and...
Just insane stuff. We had the barrel valve locked up on the night session to where when I stepped on the throttle, it was just froze. It just barely rolled out, and so we were totally shooting in the dark today.
Well, it obviously worked for Doug Foxworth. He'll go back to the pit scratching his head, however. There's a look at Doug Herbert, the 1992 Top Fuel champion. His opponent, Randy Meyer, the low-budget operator from Spring Hill, Kansas.
Maybe low budget, but he qualified number 2 with a 540. On the other hand, Doug Herbert, we're looking at him now with our Advanced Auto Parts in-car cam. We'll be riding with him. Herbert only qualified number 7. Very unusual.
There you saw as Meyer got out ahead of Doug Herbert and disappears into the distance.
Just continues to pull away as Herbert shuts the car down. Meyer with a 545.
Well, a modest budget doesn't mean modest results. If I'm a sponsor, I take a close look at the guy on the left, Randy Meyer.
Watch Doug Herbert now as he goes in smoke. He'll get back off the loud pedal, back into it again. Tried to feather it out, but there just wasn't any bite there.
The motor is still intact, and the big deal here is that it's reasonably consistent. I know that Chris Eckert probably had it set up soft, and you probably agree that that was the way to get down here.
Well, there was no doubt. Yeah, we wanted to start out a little soft and didn't want to outpower ourselves and, lose that way.
This is a heck of a change this year. I mean, you come into the first race, number 2 qualifier, and set it up soft and easily drive around a guy who's considered the toughest in this sanctioning body.
Well, I've got a pretty good crew and everything, and we got some pretty decent parts. I did have until this weekend.
Well, Randy Meyer will be back as soon as he can get some parts. You can be assured of that. Our next pair, Jim Bailey taking over for defending champion Richard Langston, and his opponent, RHONDA Hartman, cutting her teeth in Top Fuel racing.
Bailey qualified number 3 with a 547. Hartman, though, a rookie on the IHRA circuit, not bad with a 560. Nailed down the number 6 spot. Not to be taken too lightly.
There is so much for a rookie to learn in Top Fuel, including staging the car. Good launches for both, not much smoke. Now a little bit from Bailey, but RHONDA gets sideways as well. It's Bailey's race.
RHONDA very wisely shut it down. Bailey drove it on through the lights to pick up the win with a 531. As we watch one more time, you'll see again at about the 8th mile mark, both of them aged the tires just a little bit.
There's no better way to start a career than with a victory like that. The quickest run of the round so far, as a matter of fact, at a 531. And I want to tell you, the starting line launch is probably the hardest you've had so far. 8:99 60-foot time.
Pretty stout, isn't it?
Yeah, that's very impressive in this particular situation. The big question is, since your first national event win and only national event win in Alcohol Funny Car was at a non-televised event, you're going to have to get used to this TV stuff. How do you feel?
I'll have to practice a lot, huh? Hopefully a real lot.
Yeah, we hope you get lots of practice, Jim. Welcome to Top Fuel. Our final matchup, Bobby Lagana, another man moving over from Alcohol Funny Cars a few years ago, going up against Tommy Johnson from Ottumwa, Iowa, just 26 years old.
Well, Tommy has his father, Tommy Johnson Sr., behind him with that tremendous parts company, and so he should do well with his new Mopar Express sponsorship.
Bang, problems for Lagana right at the launch pad. Easy run and a good one for Johnson.
Indeed, Johnson, a 480 reaction time, incredible for a Top Fuel driver with a 545 CD. Let's watch the problems on the starting line right now for Bobby Lagana. Right in smoke, he shut it down. Very wise thing to do. He would have got nowhere.
Good news is obviously you won the round. The bad news is by 7/1000ths of a second, you lost lane choice against Doug Foxworth. 545.7 is 545.0, but at this point, I think you guys have probably figured something out for both lanes.
Yeah, we ran pretty good in both lanes in qualifying, and just went with a conservative approach on the first round. Didn't want to make any mistakes, just get down the track, and we didn't want to lose lane choice, but we'll have to overcome that in the second round. We'll be okay.
Well, lane choice goes to the driver with the quicker ET. Doug Foxworth will have it over Tommy Johnson in the semis of Top Fuel. Jim Bailey will have lane choice against Randy Meyer in the other half of the bracket. After a quick break, we'll be back to Darlington for semifinal action in both Pro Stock and Pro Mod. Stay with us. Welcome back to Darlington International Dragway and the opening event of the International Hot Rod Association for 1994. Now we go to Pro Stock for semifinal action. This is Charlie Garrett from Hanover, Pennsylvania, who had the upset of the meet earlier today when he knocked off 5-time world champ Ricky Smith. His opponent, Robert Patrick, in that beautiful new Ford Mustang.
That beautiful new Ford Mustang has 810 cubic inches of Ford power. Garrett, meanwhile, relying on the good old Pontiac at 770 inches.
with that many cubes. He must be stuffing some of them into the driver's compartment. Where do you put that much V8? And it's not doing him much good now. It's Garrett.
Indeed, it's not. Garrett with a 695, and Patrick wasted a beautiful 475 reaction time. Look at that. Off the line really caught Garrett asleep.
See if we can figure out what happened to Robert Patrick. He gets a little bit off the racing line, and I guess he just lifted. It was just too little, too late.
Out of that groove.
How does it feel going into a final round? 695, 197, and you're just nailing them on the starting line.
Well, this is my first final, Brett, and I'm happy. I'm happy for my crew. God.
All the people you put in final rounds with your motor, it's about time you got a little of this for yourself.
Yes, it is, and I'm just happy for the guys in the car. I really am.
Incidentally, this weekend, Charlie Garrett became the 8th representative in the 6-second club for Pro Stock drivers. Now we go to the other half of our semifinal bracket. You are on board with Billy Huff, the 1992 Pro Stock champion, his opponent, Mark Thomas, both men in Olds Cutlasses.
Both with 802 cubic inches of Olds power, but look at the difference here. Billy Huff off on an easy run. With our Advanced Auto Parts in-car cam, you'll see Huff reach up now, hit the kill switches for the mag, parachute release, and he begins decelerating down the Darlington course.
Another look. Watch the right lane. Problems for Mark Thomas, but nothing real obvious from the outside. He just loses the fire.
Huff with a great hole shot.
I forgot how much fun this was.
Question is 93 over?
It's long gone, I hope.
This new car probably made as big a difference as anything else because you always had the power. The big news is you got lane choice for the final 691, but you had to watch ahead of you as Robert Patrick got sideways in what's supposedly the good lane.
Yeah, I didn't know if maybe Robert, stepped his up and, loaded it for kill that run or what. I sat in the water box and watched him get over there. I'm sad to see that. Me and Robert's talked a lot. I was hoping to meet him in the finals.
Billy Huff, at age 23, has seen the ups and downs of racing. He wants to put a tough 93 behind him. He'll go to his 12th Pro Stock final to meet Charlie Garrett, who hasn't won in 35 years of drag racing. That should be a good one. We move on now to Pro Modified. There is Bill Kuhlman in that sleek Chevy Corvette with a blown alcohol-burning engine. His opponent, Chris Hunt from Killen, Alabama, 698 cubic inches of Pontiac V8 nitrous boosted.
Now remember, Kuhlman's been running 660s, Hunt only 670s, so Hunt needs a hole shot desperately here if he's going to get into the final.
They launch. Looks like Kuhlman in the right lane has the advantage. Now Hunt is shoulder to shoulder at half track.
Not quite enough to nip him. He gave it a try. Bill Kuhlman a 670, but Hunt did get the hole shot. He was off the line first.
He was slower both in ET and top speed, but he had a 4/100th of a second advantage off the line, and that's how Chris Hunt kept it close. Now our second pair. There is that amazing 41 Willys for the Cannonball, Scotty Cannon. His opponent, Chuck Peterson, apparently will not answer the bell. Nobody in the far lane. This one will be all Cannonball.
And Scotty will lay it down hard trying to get that lane choice. He's on a run. 664 picks up lane choice. Worthwhile.
That should be an interesting final. It'll be Scotty Cannon, the #1 man in the class for the last 3 years, against Bill Kuhlman, who is the father of Pro Modified and the first 200-mile-an-hour door slammer driver. Still to come, we have Top Fuel and Alcohol Funny Car semifinal action, so stay with us. Welcome back to Darlington International Dragway. A big crowd on hand enjoying the first event on the Scotchgard Automotive Protectors 3M National Drag Racing Series. Semifinal action in alcohol funny cars. There is Jimmy Rector from Vernon, Alabama. His 93 Olds Cutlass bodywork housing a 526 cubic inch JP1 block. His opponent, Larry Dobbs from Welland, Ontario, a 91 Lumina body kit.
Now, you might wonder why you don't see many Corvettes. That's because it's very difficult to reproduce that particular body style.
Keith Black block powering Larry Dobbs' machine. Both cars launch. Problems for Dobbs. Give it to Rector.
Tremendous tire shake right off the line for Larry Dobbs, so Rector will actually lift and coast through with a 736, saving the engine. Evidently didn't care about lane choice.
Now there is the Bunny, Carol Bunny Burkett, about to race her new teammate, the former world champion in the class, Mark Thomas.
Thomas and Burkett both running ethanol instead of methanol. The rest of the field running methanol alcohol. Ethanol is made from corn. And ironically, of course, that's what Mark grows up there in Ohio.
That's right. He is, in fact, a farmer from Louisville, Ohio. Two beautifully turned out race cars.
Bunny, of course, the former Playboy Bunny, now works in an office supply house.
And she got left at the starting line. Mark Thomas, a 4:01 reaction. It was over before it began.
Oh, left's not the word for it. 4:01 is absolutely incredible. As a matter of fact, he almost had to anticipate the light against Bunny. As you can see, the size of that whole shot, Bunny was never in it.
4:01 reaction.
I was I looked at the tree going by to make that in red light. I saw it and I thought, gosh, sakes, that fast. Incredible. No, I feel good. I feel good. We're finally turned. Things were so bad last year that I'm happy things are going good this year.
4:01 reaction, and there's Buddy Burkett.
Our ethanol cars didn't let us down.
That's true. Team cars here.
But it is. We are ecstatic about it. The farmers in the whole United States have to be proud of us. Our ethanol-powered cars made it to the semifinals, and now you've got to go and win because you don't outrun me. Even if I didn't do a good job driving, if you don't win the race.
We're going to try real hard.
Because you know I'll kick your butt.
I know.
My goodness, what greater incentive could there be for Mark Thomas to get around Jimmy Rector in the finals of Alcohol Funny Car?
You know, everybody made a big deal out of the 4:01, which was incredible, but we missed the ET 6:08.
Right now, it's time for the year's first edition of Big Daddy's Inside Scoop, brought to you by Mopar Parts.
In 1963, I showed up at the Winter Nationals with Swamp Rat 5, and it had a wing over the engine. Well, it didn't catch on, and the main reason was we did not have the horsepower to pull it, and the slingshot dragster had the driver sitting over the rear wheels, and so you didn't need the traction either. But in 1971, when I introduced the rear engine car to the championship drag racing circuit, it was a lightweight car, only 1,150 pounds, and it needed traction. And I remember going up to Shuffletown and racing Tommy Ivo in his great big heavy slingshot dragster, and he outran this little car without a wing. And Connie Swingle and I came back to Tampa, and we designed this little wing and put it on this car. This is the very first one on the rear engine cars. And you can tell it was working. Look at the little ribs here, how they were protruding through the aluminum. That was the air pressure that was pushing this car down. This car reached 234 miles an hour in the quarter with this wing. It was only running like 220 before. So the wing was working. But the wing quickly graduated to much different levels of competition. It went real tall. Some of the cars put them up as high as 7 and 8 feet. And then the wing got very sophisticated. 2 and 3 foils were added to these wings. And then finally on Swamp Rat 34, I have what we call the T-tail. That's a single wing stand with the big wing, which is made by Magera, carbon fiber, the whole ball of wax. Wings are the answer today, and they produce over 7,500 pounds of down pressure on the rear of these cars at 300 miles an hour.
Thanks, Big Daddy Don Garland will be bringing you his unique view on drag racing technology as the year goes on. Boy, I remember the days of TV Tommy Ivo back in the 60s. We've got a great matchup right here. There's a look at Tommy Johnson. His opponent in the semifinals of Top Fuel, Doug Foxworth, the defending champion in this event.
Tommy Johnson laid down a nice 480 reaction time on the run before getting into this final round. Qualified #1.
Now he launches. He has a whole car length advantage as Foxworth smokes the tires. He was never in it.
Tommy Johnson, a 444 reaction time coupled with a 526, which is low ET of the event.
Remember, Tommy, when he talked to Brett, said he didn't particularly care about lane choice that much. I guess he must have known something about setup.
You said there was no difference between lanes?
You know, I think it was just the slower car got the left lane by lane choice for the faster car, and it kind of deceived everybody. We didn't really think there was anything wrong with the left and weren't really too concerned about running it, and it paid off for us.
Darn right it did. Good job.
Maybe we'll pick the left next time.
All right, Tommy Johnson is on into the finals, and his opponent about to be named. Randy Meyer will race Jim Bailey and Richard Langston's championship fueler from last year.
You can bet Bailey would love to get in the finals. This is his first ever ride in Top Fuel Eliminator, but he's got a good clutch man at the helm.
Oh, Randy Meyer, no smoke, but he got a bit sideways. Meanwhile, Bailey smokes everything, but he's going to win.
Nice driving job for Jim Bailey. Went up in smoke, got out of it, got right back into it, picked up the victory.
So our Top Fuel final will match Tommy Johnson in his first final of any kind since 1991 against Jim Bailey, the former alcohol funny car driver having a dream debut in Top Fuel. Stay with us. Welcome back to Darlington, South Carolina, where the shadows have grown long. It is happy hour. Finals time beginning with Pro Stock. There is Charlie Garrett, who has yet to win a drag race in 35 years of trying. His opponent, Billy Huff, who has won plenty. This is his 12th final. He's the 1992 Series champion.
Consider, too, that Charlie Garrett has not only ever won a drag race, he's never been to a final. So this has to be a lot of pressure on Charlie Garrett with the more experienced and yet much younger Huff driving against him.
Huge launch for Charlie Garrett by 1/10 of a second over Huff. He clobbered him.
A 5:05 to a 6:01 reaction time. Everybody's in shock, I'll guarantee you, including Billy Huff. And then Garrett coupled it with a 6:97 to Huff's losing 7:04. Look at that whole shot. Huff was never in it at all.
And so 53-year-old Charlie Garrett has his first ever victory.
You had another incredible reaction time this time, probably one of the best of your career when it counted under pressure.
It's time for it. It's overdue. 35 years.
I know.
No computer in this car. We don't use computers. We don't have all that stuff, but we try. We do our own work, and we try hard.
And don't forget, the man behind the wheel is the man that built the horsepower, too.
We try. That's all.
It tried and it happened.
Yes.
Good job.
So Charlie Garrett will be the early season championship leader in Pro Stock. We move now to Pro Modified. Here's the guy who's been leading this class for the last 3 seasons. The Onsat 41 Willys of Scotty Cannon going up against the blown 1994 Chevy Corvette of Bill Coolman.
You know, if anybody can stop Scotty Cannon, it has to be Bill Coolman. A lot of experience, an excellent prepared engine and car, the number 1 and 2 qualifiers on the line right here in the final.
That's the way it's supposed to work. And keep in mind, Coolman comes in on a roll. He won the last event of last season. Great launch for both drivers.
This is the best side-by-side race, Bob, we've had all day long. It'll be Bill Coolman winning it, a 6:35 to a 6:36. Now, the IHRA is telling us we probably have a rear wheel start here. Those times are impossible. Look at the reaction time, 7:91 to 7:94. Move the 3/10 over, you've got a 6:60 run. As we watch it again, you'll see just how close it was at the finish.
That was so sweet, so close. Way to start a year, finally.
Revenge from last year.
Hey, we work one race at a time. Summit's one step toward a world championship. I never make promises, but we did make the first step. The crew this weekend, Beth, Jim Spitzer, Brian Huffmeyer, son Jimmy, everybody there did a fantastic job. You have to in that deal. And thanks again to Rick Hickman for coming over and looking at the fuel system and getting us back on target.
Finished number 2 in the world last year. You're number 1 in the world right now,
yeah,
buddy.
for right now, it's sweet. It's sweet.
So Bill Coolman will try to hang on to that Pro Mod Championship lead as we move on to alcohol funny cars. Jimmy Rector right there. His first final in alcohol funny car. He's going up against the former champion, Mark Thomas.
Former champion indeed, 1990, 1991, 1992. This guy has 9 national event victories to his credit.
Good launch, both drivers. A little bit of wheel hop at the front for Rector. Is his dream over? Yes.
Mark Thomas is 6:13, but more importantly, identical reaction time, 4:79. You can see as they come off the line together that identical reaction time, but look at Rector. A little bit of wheel hop right there is causing him some problem. Thomas is glued to the track in the groove.
Is he back? Is 93 over?
Yes, sir. It's over. I'm happy. I tell you what, we found a lot of problems in that clutch deal, and it's really worked out good. I can't thank enough people. My family, my friends, my crew, the ethanol people, Rick Hickman, everybody's been behind us. I mean, last year, you know how bad it was? It was terrible. Yeah. And nobody, got away from us. Everybody stayed behind us. I'm a happy camper.
Well, I've never seen a group of winners happier to see Brett Kepner at the other end of the track. The season's off to a great start. Let's see if it continues now in Top Fuel. There is Tommy Johnson. His opponent, perhaps the Cinderella story of this weekend, Jim Bailey, in his very first Top Fuel event, goes all the way to the final.
Bailey actually has more experience in drag racing, but not in Top Fuel. He's 12 years older than Tommy Jr., but Jr.'s been driving this Fueler a lot longer.
Bailey has fouled. Bailey red lights. Johnson comes through second, but wins the race.
Tommy Johnson with a 5:27, not a bad ending to a nice day for Tommy Jr. We'll watch one more time. You see the red light kick on for Jim Bailey. It's over right there, folks.
We were pretty consistent all weekend, and the guys did a great job, and we worked real good as a team in between rounds, and that's paid off in consistency. And for Mopar to come over to IHRA and take the first win in a long time we run in IHRA, we'll be here for a while. We're doing good. I like this.
World Championship Point Series lead is yours, I might add.
Number 1 in the world. That's pretty good. I never had that. I like that.
It's going to be a great season on the IHRA trail. We'll be back to wrap things up from a rapidly darkening Darlington. Back at Darlington International Dragway, where the All-Pro Auto Parts Snap-on Tools Winter Nationals is complete. How about a look at the points, Ted?
With his victory here today at Darlington, Tommy Johnson Jr. takes the lead in Top Fuel, Jim Bailey in second place, Randy Meyer in third. In Pro Stock, a real shocker. Charlie Garrett out on top, Billy Huff trying to hold on to second place, Mark Thomas in third. But in Pro Modified, look for this war all year long. Bill Kuhlman on top, Scotty Cannon in second place. And in Alcohol Funny Car, can he repeat? Mark Thomas takes the lead with Jimmy Rector in second.
Now here's a look at the rest of the International Hot Rod Association season here on ESPN, featuring 3 new racetracks. In July, we'll be at Alabama International Dragway in Steele, Alabama. Then in August, at US 41 International Dragway near Chicago at Morocco, Indiana. And in September, Tulsa International Raceway in Tulsa, Oklahoma. All a part of the season here on ESPN. To subscribe to Drag Review, the voice of the International Hot Rod Association, call the number on your screen.